I think Dusty is, I don't know. She's, I guess the hot weather. Now it's nice and cool. But she was in her litter box a minute ago, and she seems to like to lie on this old ironing board cover that I threw on the floor the other day. It was so hot in here, and oh, now I think she's going back in her little bed here. Ooh. Yeah, she likes her bed. She likes her little beddies. She prefers her little bed. Usually when I wake up, she's in her bed, not over there. There's the litter pan where where Lady Diana, my old picture. Oh, sweetheart. I'd better give her a little brush or something. Hey, Dusty. Poor little girl. She's so old, but I can't put her down. My goodness, she's been so much a part of my life for the past 18 years. We think she's 20. Dr. Smith thought she was 20. But it's difficult, you know, to make a decision. But I know when she stops eating and drinking and pooing and peeing, you know, but so far so good, eh? She goes out and she likes going out in her little cage on the ground outside. We have a bit of a yard. It's not, there's no grass, it's just dirt. With Christina's plants, and Alexander did have some sort of a garden out there, but I don't know what happened to that. That was 2 years ago when we first moved here. But it's been difficult for us we were rehomed ourselves. Dusty was rehomed, and me and my son and my daughter, we were also rehomed by a developer. Not our choice. We did pay our rent, but we were mass evicted, if you will, from our old homestead where we lived for 20 years or more. And that was difficult, very difficult transition for me especially, because I had just been laid off my job, you see. So now I take care of a 20-year-old mama cat of many kittens. A mama cat of many kittens. I'm a mama human of many humans. Or kids, or Balkan babies, or whatever you want to call them. But they're my children. That's what I call them, my children. Even although I wasn't able to raise 3 of them. They were only in my life for a short period of time, each of those 3 children. The oldest daughter was in my life for almost 3 years. And my second daughter was in my life for, I don't know how to say it, 1 week. For the time I was in the hospital, and then I made a decision that I couldn't choose which child to keep, and I couldn't support 2. So I called Children's Aid into the hospital, and a young social worker appeared. She had an English accent, and she was very tall and very nice, and we sat down in the lobby, and I made a decision, and that I just couldn't afford to keep 2 children, and she said, Heather, you owe it to the girls and to yourself. And I was very young, and it was a very rocky relationship with a professional gambler, and I just made the decision. I agreed with her and signed the document, and I didn't realize how difficult that would be, and then I got married. It was a very lonely life being single without my two babies. I had a difficult time living alone. It was such a lonely, lonely, agonizing existence, but I kept busy and I worked. There was no welfare in those days, and I worked. It was $1 an hour, but it was an honest living. And then I got married, and I became a Mrs. Heather Topich. I was bound and determined I'm going to do it right this time, according to my culture. And we got married in a Roman Catholic church in Toronto. And nobody came to the wedding other than my mother and father. And everybody was afraid to go into a Roman Catholic church. I don't know why that was. My best friend at school was a girl from Italy, and I fell in love with that Catholic church. It was so beautiful, and I took private lessons after school with a priest very close to where I lived. I lived with Jewish people on Briar Hill Avenue in New Toronto. Actually, it was called New Forest Hills, Toronto, in that district. And so on March 23rd, I got married in a Croatian Roman Catholic church. It was a beautiful new structure, but I had been to that address before when my little girl was born to me, my oldest daughter, on July 22nd, 62. And I had taken her there on the streetcar all dressed up in my christening gown that I wore when I was a little infant. And I wish I knew where that was, but I guess it was destroyed in a house fire. I had put it aside because I wanted to keep it for a souvenir for my children when they grew up, for her when she grew up. I didn't think I would ever have other children. It wasn't a plan to have her. I guess it was my destiny to give birth to her, and her father left the province and moved to Vancouver because his friend and I became lovers, and we all three of us met on the same day. But I fell in love with him because he seemed more social and settled and quiet and nice. And he started teaching me all about his country and about how to speak his language. He couldn't speak English, and I need to write all this stuff out because it's part of a book that I was going to put together for my children, my 5 children. And then I got married, and I had 2 children. And then that ended. It wasn't supposed to end because I got married in a church, and the priest said for better or for worse. My church service was in 2 languages. It was in English and in Serbo-Croatian. and the priest was Father Franjo Skumals, and he was from the province, or the state, I guess, of Slovenia. It was a state, and the country was Yugoslavia. And so here he is in Toronto at a Roman Catholic Croatian church, marrying me to my Bosnian Serbian husband. And he wasn't very happy that day to get married in a Croatian church, because he was a Serbian. He was supposed to get married in a Serbian Orthodox church, but there were no Serbian Orthodox churches in Canada, I guess, because I only knew about that particular church. So I chose that church, and off we went to get the premarital counseling, and then we got married, and he knew everything about me and about my love affair with the man I fell in love with, and who had abandoned me with 2 children. And I had gone back to him briefly after we broke up in 1965, and after I gave our children away. But I realized when I moved to Vancouver in 1966, I realized that that's not the man I can build a future with. It was very, very disappointing, because he would never quit gambling. He refused to work, and he decided that that was the easy way to make a living in this country. And he has no record of employment ever, although he did work once in Toronto for a helicopter company. I've written it all down somewhere. I still need to do his family tree, because he is my second oldest daughter's father, but not my first daughter. I always thought he was both children's fathers, but he wasn't. And it's too bad that children are born with men that pick girls up, or what do you call that? Abduct. The first one abducted me, but didn't touch me. He didn't hurt me or do anything with me. He just scooped me up, threw me in his Volvo, and took me to his room where he lived in this big house near Stanley Park. So when I woke up, he wasn't there. And the first man I met, I asked, "Where is the washroom?" I was very young. I worked at the Toronto Stock Exchange, and I had a good job. And all of a sudden, I was in a strange, huge heritage home near Stanley Park with all these people from Yugoslavia. The landlady, I didn't meet her husband. I met the landlady, and I met him. And that's when I guess I didn't fall in love with the man that abducted me, but I did fall in love with the man who befriended me at that house. And that lasted until the summer of 1967. And then a year later, I met my husband. I guess I was lonely out in a big city all by myself, codependent, whatever you call it, but I think I was too young to be out on my own. I really think that young girls should stay with their parents as long as they can, because it's a lonely life in a huge city like Toronto, to be all alone in a rooming house, because it's basically a setup for to be it's young girls are very easily seduced. I was. And I don't know about nowadays. I mean, I'm going back to um, the summer of 1961, 6-1. That's a heck of a long time ago. But, you know, if I could save one young teenager's life, you don't have to tell me, but I can tell you that it is not a good idea to be out in a big city all by yourself at age 17. You might think you're mature. I thought I was too, and I sure grew up pretty quickly and became a mother within a year. Not even, well, a year after. Well, you see, I was a foster kid, and they wanted me to get a job. They didn't want me to go to school. They said they didn't have enough funding for me to finish school, and they didn't want to pay for foster care. So to cut back on the expenses, they decided to just release me after I finished school. In June 1961, I was on my own. That's it, get a job. But that's when they relinquished the custody of foster care. And that wasn't very kosher. That was not very kosher at all. In fact, I found myself almost homeless and didn't know where to go. And it seemed like nobody wanted me around because I was a young, girl. And young girls need their daddies. And if you're rejected by everybody, and the foster mother, the Jewish lady, said she had to take her children to her summer cottage and didn't want me to live at her house, 636 Briar Hill Avenue, because the neighbors would talk, because I'm a young woman now. So I guess girls got married pretty young. I know the Jewish girls that I went to school with, the business college, Shaw's Business College on Yonge Street, they were already engaged. They were flashing big diamond rings, and they could hardly wait to get married. And I hope their marriage lasted, because my generation of young girls, for some reason, our marriages didn't last. And I don't know why that is. It's a mystery why the generation, even religion, couldn't keep people together. And I got married in a church because I figured, well, things were really upside down before I got married. And now here I am, 23 years old, in March 1968. So it would be good that I got married. That's a good age to get married. It's a normal age to get married, really. And then I had a girl and a boy 5 years later, and everything seemed normal for a whole decade. But it really wasn't normal, because I guess my husband hung out with a bad crowd at a club in Vancouver. We live now in Vancouver. We came here in April '69, and for some reason he kept going to this gambling club, and it was sort of a hangout for men from Yugoslavia, and it didn't matter what church they went to because they were all gamblers, and they wanted to talk about the future and how to make money and buy a house and buy property and have a better life. They were all new immigrants. The men do that. But the women stay home with the kids, and that's what I did. But I also had a job. I had some very good jobs during my marriage. It was as if I was supporting us. And in a way I was, because all the benefits from my job supported me and the children and him, because he refused to get a job with a company. He wanted to have his own business, so we had a backyard type auto body shop business. And he was, behind with all the payments, and I couldn't keep up with it on my office girl salary. Even although I worked for the government, the wages were very, very low then. No union. I've never had a union job. And, I started working in the business world for $1 an hour. And at my last job, I was, as at December 31st, 2016, I worked until age 72. I was earning $12 an hour. So my wages went up $11 in all the years I worked. And I worked a lot of years. I'm not complaining. It was an honest living, but I could be more financially secure had I looked for a better job, a higher paying job. But a career was not my priority. My priority was my home and my family. And how could I build a career? Anyway, that's the latest little Dusty. So there's a lot to tell, but I am gonna miss Dusty. I miss my old place, but I'm over it now. I can tell that I'm over it, and life goes on, and the developers did what they had to do, and that was employ. They gave jobs to, I guess if you count how many people it takes to, it was a 10-acre plot of land, and it takes a lot of planning, and it's a very, very expensive project. Condominium complex and townhome complex. I don't even know what it looks like. But the company name was is still Dawson, Dawson, and Sawyer, Sawyer. And you can Google that, and condos at 8190 King George Boulevard, Surrey, SurreyBC. Did it really take me 25 minutes, almost? Wow. Oh, well, I'm a storyteller. I can listen to this sometime when I'm sitting here and no distractions, like putting blinders on the horse when you're going to town, a horse and buggy. I can remember that, Hanover, Ontario, 1956. Sitting beside my grandmother. Boy, she sure knew how to handle horses, and she wasn't cruel about it. The horses knew her, and she called them a name, and they were draft horses, Clydesdales, and beautiful long fur on their hair. I guess horses' hair. It's not fur, it's hair. I don't know. I just know what they look like. They were so beautiful, the Clydesdales. I don't know where they came from. Maybe they were brought to Canada, Ontario in the 1950s from another country, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they were born in Canada, like me. But I do like horses. I love them. I have such fond memories of where I was born in that little village. And we were all outcasts. The Germans were Roman Catholic Germans. They were kicked out of Germany. And my ancestors were kicked. I guess they migrated to Ireland for a better life, to the Dublin area or something. But they all met in Scotland on the east coast, because I have 66% Scottish DNA and very little Irish. I always thought I was Irish. My father thought we were Irish, but I would have to be Roman Catholic to be Irish. But nobody in my family was Roman Catholic, just me. I converted because I had an Italian girlfriend, and I forget her name now, Loretta, I think. But she introduced me to that Catholic church, and I fell in love with it, and I wanted to be a Roman Catholic. So at age 16, I had already studied a book called Life in Christ, and I was going to the Roman Catholic bookstore and I had a rosary, and I used to wear it around my neck. I applied for a job once, and she asked me to take it off. She said, "You can't go around with a rosary on your neck. You'll never get a job." Well, I took it off. She was from England, and she looked really chic, really well-dressed, and a cute bob haircut, very modern. People from Europe were always more modern than us homely Canadian girls, even in Toronto. Sorry to say that, but that's 1961, a long time ago. Anyway, it's funny I have to talk to a 20-year-old cat because I have nobody to listen to me. Oh well. Too bad. So sad. No, it's not sad. I love talking. I can talk to my phone if I want to, can't I? And I can talk to two beautiful kitty cats. We can talk to animals. They could be dogs. But Dusty's a very independent girl. She always has been. She's been no trouble at all in these 18 years. Just a wonderful Russian blue cat. That's a good breed. Short fur. She's very fussy, and she grooms herself. You don't have to, long-haired cats, sometimes the fur gets matted. And Dusty is a very, very wonderful girl. Very wonderful. So I'm going to let her live out her life, and we'll see what happens.